let's get into why the experts are saying that Canada is going to continue moving along hunky-dory.
This is relevant to everyone because I think most people who listen to this show are involved in real estate in one form or the other. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there. There's a lot of uncertainty at the least, but you've come across some things where some experts are saying fourth quarter, the Canadian market is not going to crash the way maybe some people are expecting. And there's some experts kind of lining up on that side of the margin. Unpack that for me.
Yeah, so they gave 3 reasons on why they believe that it's not going to crash. And like the number one thing right off the hop, and we've talked about it a bunch, we've talked about this all over the place, but interest rates. And yes, they're up, but basically what they're saying is we were getting stress tests before. We've always been getting stress tests for years, and those are designed to qualify people at these higher rates. Now, it doesn't mean that people necessarily want to be sitting at these higher rates, but it does say that they can still service their debt at the higher rate. Additionally, like everyone's like, well, yeah, it's gone up, let's say more than 200 basis points. It's not everyone that 1%. Like a bunch of people came into this at 2.5%, 3.5%.
Totally. I knew plenty of people that were pumped to lock in at like 2.65, 3.1.
So there's a ton of renewals that are coming up that they're going from 3.1 to 4.25. And it's like that's a bump. It's definitely a bump, but it's not as bad as...
Well, some of those people are locked in for 5 years, first of all. And anyone who locked in pre-pandemic, I mean, if you got a really good rate in like 2008 or 2018 or 2017, what was like a really good rate back then? I don't know. Yeah, 3.5, 3.69.
Yeah,
like that was a really good rate that you were locking into. And so that blip, that change isn't that material. The other thing is, man, we talked about this before. It's something like 67% of Canadians like own a home. But of all the people that own a home, 35% of them have no mortgage at all. Right? So like 1/3 of Canadians out there that own a home, 1/3 of the homes on the street in your neighborhood doesn't even have a mortgage.
Okay, personal question.
Yeah.
Do you have a mortgage on your house?
Do I have a mortgage on my house? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, totally. I've got a mortgage on my house, of course. Okay. And then it's something like of the remaining, which is the 65% of the people that do have mortgages, it was always around 75% of them that were on a fixed product. Probably because of what's happened the last couple of years, it's more like 65, 70% of them are on a fixed product. Mm-hmm. So that means 30 to 40% of people, at most, of the people that have a mortgage are exposed to these variable increases. So that is a small percentage. That's about, I don't know, less than 1/3 of the people who have a house are actually on a variable product and could be impacted by this.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not the amount that people like, oh my gosh, every homeowner in Canada is experiencing this. It's like, no, that's just not true. Second reason. So the first reason the market's not going to collapse as much as maybe people are thinking is because there are some built-in protections from a rate standpoint. One, most people aren't on a variable product at all. Two, they've been stress tested, and there's some truth to the stress test thing or not, because in the major markets where people are being stress tested, they've got co-signers. So you're not just stress testing the individual and their ability to pay month to month. You're stress testing their whole friggin' family. So I don't buy the stress test argument as much as I buy the fact that most people don't have a variable rate mortgage. Yeah. What's reason number 2?
Number 2, demand. Unlike China, where they have an extra 100 million houses, if not more.
Yeah, they have excess supply.
We are short by millions of homes. And we're continuing every year to be like, let's say we need 1 million houses. Well, we only have starts for 700,000, and we've been continuing down that cycle for a long time, and everyone's seeing that. Everyone knows that. There's a reason that rents are skyrocketing. That is the reason that prices are continuing to rise. Well, at this point, they've slowed the rise, but I feel like they're starting to come back again, and that's what's caused the rise is this inventory thing. So he's saying, with that going on and continued immigration, this is something that's going to stabilize the prices, and they're going to stay, because maybe they won't continue to skyrocket because the cost to buy is more, but like we've talked about before, people aren't going to just start giving away houses because they need somewhere to live. Like, where are they going to go?
I think also, we talk about this all the time. Everyone, when they talk about real estate, the only thing they seem to want to talk about is Vancouver and Toronto. And even if you go into the nuance of those areas, the core areas are still pretty strong. What seems to be getting hit are the peripheral suburban sprawl places that went through the roof. These are seeing the biggest increases in the country. And yeah, now they are pulling back, but the stuff right in the core is still really strong. The other thing you're seeing is maybe like some condo market softening because a lot of those were landlords on variable products. And now, yeah, they're trying to get rid of some of that stock. But if you still want to live in the core in those markets, which are the markets being hardest hit, the demand support for pricing there is still pretty strong. And then if you go to other parts of the country, they didn't have the boom and while things are softening, they're not softening near as much as what you're seeing in some of these areas, which is like 20 to 25% declines, right? Like you might see a 5% here, a 7 to 10 somewhere else, but the big numbers that the media loves, like the 20 to 25, that's in periphery, these suburbs of Toronto and the Fraser Valley area of BC.
I'm going to come at you with some contrary feels here.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are going to be like, yo, you guys are screaming doom and gloom. And I'm not necessarily agreeing with this. I'm saying this with what experts are saying. And this is just my concern. It's something we were just chatting about before we turned the mics on. But they're now saying that Canada is, so we're having all this housing crisis. So on a short term, having a housing crisis, ton of immigration, things are going nuts. On a little bit longer term, they're saying we're expected to hit up to maybe 75 million people in Canada by 2068, when the original was 100 million people by 2100. So if you're at 74 million by 2068, like we're going to surpass well over 100 million by 2100.
And is that supposed to make housing cheaper or?
No.
Okay, I was going to say.
Well, that's going to continue to push prices up. But my point is that governments are going to start to look at this and they're going to be like, maybe we should relax on the immigration.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And so they're saying right now, everything's great. Demand's continuing because immigration continues to rise. And right now the government's saying, we're going to continue with immigration. But BOC also said we're going to continue with low rates. And look what they did. So things have to change. And so at some point, they're going to start slowing the immigration dial. And that's like my biggest concern with all this. I'm like, everything's dandy-os. But anyways, this is in the back of my head. Everything is birthday cake Oreo. Get out of my face.
Everything is dandy-os? Okay.
This is I'm gonna show it to my mom. She's listening to this. She's definitely the one who said that. I've gotten that from her.
Okay.
But
I like it.
Real talk. That's my one concern with all
this.
You're
concerned that because
that immigration at some point they're gonna park it because if no one locally can get an apartment and they're $2,500 a piece.
Yeah. So, and reason 3 that some of these experts though are saying that the market is going to have resiliency and isn't going to crash the way people think is because of demand and immigration, right?
No, number 3 is employment.
Oh, okay.
So the job demand is through the roof.
Okay.
Everyone, like we were talking about as we came in here, the ferry. We have a ferry locally here in Halifax.
Yeah.
They had to cut some of their times because they literally can't get people to drive. And you mentioned you had somebody who joined the transit service here, and they're working 60 hours a week.
He's brand new, and they were like, man, he's had to ask for them to not book him for 60 hours a week. Yeah.
So there's I've seen a ton of restaurants here that have reduced hours, are not offering products. Multiple stores that are shutting down, again, reduced hours, not shutting down completely, but reduced hours because they can't get the people to keep the places open and run.
And you look into this, those are good paying jobs, man. When you hit the overtime, we're talking 80,000 a year, it would be more to be, to be running the ferry.
Totally.
If I bet if you're doing the ferry and you're working overtime, you're north of $100,000 easy.
Construction companies can't get people to work at them. Any business you start in any of these Canadian cities right now, you're inundated with a ton of demand. And so what they're saying is that's propping things up because people are able to keep charging more and making more money.
Which concerns me about the inflation front. And we're, this episode's going to air, I think, around first week of September. We're going to have the inflation numbers for July for August, probably mid-September. Bank of Canada meets on September 6th, if I recall, right? So I'm curious because you're right. Unemployment is still super, super low. Prices are still feeling some upward pressure. So I don't know. We'll see what this yields for
I'd be
inflation.
curious to see what the unemployment number looks like relative to how many unfilled job positions there are.
Right.
I feel like there's a lot of people
that lower in a weird way.
Yeah, honestly, because I think a lot of people could probably be working in some of these positions. So yeah, it's a weird time. So, anyways, they're saying that that's strong job growth, which would, on the flip side, mean they need more immigrants. Mm-hmm, right. And so honestly, the other part of me, and I think the stronger part of me, believes that they're going to do stuff to spur construction. That's going to be, I think their
so
biggest
too.
push.
That's coming down the pipeline.
They're putting more incentives in. CMHC made a lot of great programs, but
then it got undercut by the friggin' interest rate. So
exactly, you're seeing it's not enough because all the big guys pulled out and said, look, great, our FCI programs, all these different programs to help us build, still not enough.
Yeah.
to give us the stability and the cost cuttings that we need to get these
Yeah.
things up.
It's just not.
And so I think, like we just said, they're going to come up with something to. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't see the government building the stuff themselves.
It'll be fixed low rates, is what it'll be. It'll be like,
You think?
and they'll have
Maybe
to
longer AMs, 50-year AMs.
Well, that was already out there.
That's already out there.
Yeah, but
100-year AMs. They have that in a lot of places.
crazy.
A lot of places
crazy.
in Europe have 100-year AMs.
Yeah. So a few reasons that maybe the market's going to still be strong. I mean, talking here in Halifax, I've still seen a lot of strength. Last week, 40% of the properties still traded above asking price. Noteworthy, though, that was down from about 50% the week before. And the
At a
average...
peak of like 80%.
Yeah. Oh, at its peak, it was like 90%. And the average sale price relative to ask, 99.5, which is actually under 100. Last week, it was just over 100
for a while.
We've been over 100 for almost 3 years. So things are still slowing,
That's a little aggressive.
but still, if you look at that, by any other measure, that's insane. Like people ask, like, "Oh, how's the market?" I hear it's slowing down. I'm like, "Yeah, it's still the third craziest market ever in the history of the city."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So there's still a lot of strength there.
Yeah. We had a bunch of listings this week that had multiple offers, and
Yeah.
we did good.
When I was broke, I had rich habits. When I was broke, I had rich habits.